Hey, GW coming to you live. Another hot one today. We should be out of the heat advisory, you know, nastiness that we've been into for 3 days. And that's probably one of the reasons I've been on here so much is because it's too hot to do anything. And I think if you go outside, you're going to turn into a pile of ash. It's just my opinion. So, anyway, the last time I was on here, I told you guys about some movies that when you walk outside, the heat makes you think of some movies, and especially if you're a film buff like me, you kind of, pick that up. So I thought of one more. It's a 1999 crime thriller movie. It's directed by Spike Lee, and it's called Summer of Sam. This film is about the residents of New York who are terrorized by David Berkowitz, who I think is called the monster in the film. I don't think they actually reveal his name till the very end, but it stars John Leguizamo, Adrian Brody, and can't even talk today, Mira Sorvino. And it is a pretty good slice of, crime. We're very well done acting, and like I said, if you guys know anything about the David Berkowitz, he terrorized people on a place called Lover's Lane in the 70s, and this movie does not shy away. It deals more with paranoia and how people, like, fear spreads throughout, like, this small group. And before you know it, it takes an explosive turn. Spike Lee is not afraid to show anything either. If you guys are familiar with the 70s and the swinger circuit, there's even a scene shot at Plato's Retreat. I'm not even going to go into that one. But, the older people would know what that is. So just the weather outside made me think of it. Like I said, that, falling down. Postal is another one I think you can classify as being goofy, but it doesn't push the intensity meter. It pushes the absurd meter. Summer Sam, Boys in the Hood. Boys in the Hood's another one I think that you can relate to for summer. It takes place over a summer and then ends up the whole life, and John Singleton, very cool movie. Ice Cube, Cuba Gooding Jr., really good acting performances. If you like that film and you haven't checked out a film called Menace to Society, I suggest you check that out. Lorenz Tate is in that, and again, it's about gang violence in L.A. Another one that flew under the radar too for the summer movies that I think about now when I look at hot, is Colors. Sean Penn. Check that one out. If you can find it in print, grab it. It's a very good movie. I think I did a movie review on it. Very awesome. Very controversial by today's standards. So check out Colors if you can. But I want to talk about a video game, and I don't usually give bad reviews on video games. If I like it, I like it. Even if it's bad, usually if I can complete it and it's enjoyable to me, I'll give it, a pretty high rating, even though the majority of people do not like it. With that being said, I actually recently completed the game Mindseye. And wow. So I'm just going to tell you my experiences with the game. And, I'm not saying buy it, don't buy it. I'm going to kind of go use my better judgment and just tell you, like I said, what I think now. And believe me, anytime I do anything on here, I don't try to influence people to watch films. I don't try to, direct you to buy something or not watch it. It's up to you. At the end of the day, it's up to you. I can only tell you my experiences, or if I like a movie, if I hate a movie. I think there was only 2 movies in the history of my YouTube channel that I really trashed, and that was Ray Donovan. That movie was stupid. It was more of a backstory. And the Texas Chainsaw Massacre from Netflix. I think those are the only 2 movies I've savagely ripped apart because I had such high expectations that when I saw the finished product, I was beyond crushed. But let's talk about Mind's Eye. Mind's Eye is a recent video game, and it was written and directed by Leslie Benzies, who used to work for Rockstar Games. Rockstar, of course, as you know, put out Grand Theft Auto, Red Dead Redemption, and Manhunt. Manhunt 2, which you can't find in print anymore. Bully. Very controversial type games. And their biggest breakthrough success was obviously the Grand Theft Auto series. So I'm scrolling along on my Xbox one day and I see, a pre-order for mindseye. And I'm looking at it, and from the trailer, the graphics were pretty damn realistic. The combat looked like it had something going for it. So I went ahead and pre-ordered the thing, like a lot of people did. And closer to launch, I can remember because it came out at 12 o'clock in the afternoon on a Thursday, because I got a thing on my Xbox saying mindseye installing. I said, okay. So what was odd to me was I kept looking up on IGN, mindseye, preview, and nothing. Then I started getting videos in my video feed about how the game was garbage and how basically it was unplayable. It was broken. And even then, I'm like, okay, because being as it was ported to the Xbox, PlayStation 5, and PC, I was like, okay, most of your big problems with games happen on PC hardware. For some reason or other, I can't explain it. At least that's what I was led to believe. So I come home, and that day from working, and I popped it in, and I got into the title screen, hit start, it kicked me out. I went back in, says mindseye is updating. So, okay, so I wait. Wait about 10 minutes, get back on my Xbox and play. And I had read everything to the point where people were saying it was a disaster, that it's unplayable. I made it through about an hour and a half of playing it that night. And I was like, it's okay. But I didn't stop to think about it. There was a few missions in the beginning that, well, actually the whole game, that will insta-fail you. And I did not like that. So then the next morning, I'm like, you know what? I got a half hour before work. Let me jump in and play it. Then came the horrible, horrible CPR minigame. And when I mean horrible, guys, I'm talking about unpassable. Like, you are doing what the directions of the minigame tell you, and you cannot get past this stupid thing. So for about an hour, a half hour, I played it in the morning, and I was like, you know what? I'm getting frustrated because I would get all the way close and it would fail me, right? But you needed to do that to progress the story, because I was actually kind of involved in the story. I was invested in it. Wasn't anything special, but it's like, let's see where this thing would go, right? And to be fair, had this game would have been thought out better and programmed better and have better hit detection when you shoot things, which I'm going to get into in a minute, and actually a little challenging AI, you would have something there. You would have a stepping stone to create the rest of your game with. And then as I'm at work, I'm still checking up, and they're saying mindseye, horrible disaster, CPR minigame sucks, refunds are coming, and I'm like, oh damn. So I was hell-bent on beating the CPR minigame. So I come home and took a breath, another 3 times, and I finally beat it. But what I didn't know was that day, something really odd happened, that they patched it. So they made it easier. Okay, so they made it easier. They patched the stupid minigame. Then I'm like, okay, let's go forward. Then I have to do a mission where I have to meet the character of Charlie. Now, when you get to the character of Charlie, you pull up, and it's a standard shootout in the street type affair. And that's great. I was actually having fun at that because it looked like, something, again, reminiscent of GTA. The AI I noticed wasn't that challenging, but I'm at the point now where, like I said, I've played FromSoft games. I've beaten Bloodborne. I've beaten Dark Souls 3. I've beaten Elden Ring, except for the DLC, which we're still working on. And sometimes you don't need frustration in your life. You just want to just clear a board quickly, easily, and quietly, and with less stress. And that's what I did. But then I noticed, at least playing that mission for the first time, that the stupid AI wouldn't even shoot at me. So I don't know what they were shooting at, but I was able to easily pick them off. And I'm like, okay, win for me. And I got in the car with Charlie in the game, and now you're being pursued by pickup trucks with gunners on them. Okay? Standard GTA affair. You know, you get behind the wheel of a vehicle or something, you have to shoot, things coming at you, enemies coming at you, fine. Logic would dictate that when you shoot at a hood of a truck, it would blow up. For some reason, the car I was in, being driven by Charlie, would blow up 4 to 5, 6 times without any warning, just done. So then I got mad at that mission. So finally I did beat that, but then I'm sitting there shooting at the radiator grill on this one truck that, it pulls up right behind you. And I'm just emptying a machine gun clip full of stuff into this, and it doesn't catch fire. Then I noticed, after I died and retried it, that trucks were just veering off into other directions, not even coming at me. Okay. So again, trial and error, another 45 minutes, I beat the mission. But I'm like, okay. Then I start reading, too, because I followed this thing very concisely. Started reading about people spawning in the middle of the floor, street, building where you couldn't move. That never happened to me. What did happen to me was, if there would be a cutscene, much like the one where you go into Charlie's apartment, it would freeze on me. So I'd have to turn my Xbox off, get back into the game, and I was able to progress. But again, in doing this a few times, now you start thinking the game is unfinished. Now you're starting to go, well, crap. Now, needless to say, because I played it more than 2 hours, I wasn't able to get a refund, but whatever. I'll eat the money. I don't care. But then I came hell-bent on determining to beat this thing, and that's where I think I discovered most of the issues with this game. And when you have a video game such as this, that's a sci-fi crime, GTA clone, you would expect to fight bosses. You would expect to fight, the main bad guys, And even in GTA 5, you were able to kill Trevor. You can consider Trevor as a mini-boss, let's just be fair. This game doesn't do that. This game cuts to a cutscene, and it's almost like a mini-movie. And to be fair, the story, like I said, was decent enough to keep you going, but it wasn't impressive. Many times I thought I was going to be able to just take out my pistol and start shooting, and then it would cut to a cutscene, and then I'd see the fate of the bad guy that I took over. Make matters worse is that mini game in the beginning was annoying. They duplicate it toward the end of the film where you're betrayed and it's supposed to become as a surprise. But, at this point, with all the bugs and glitches that this thing had, of course they'd put another mini game in there. This one, instead of saving somebody, now you're digging your own grave, and now it's a setup because now you dig your own grave. You have to go through the sort of CPR minigame steps to dig a hole. Now you're going to play sniper and start shooting people on a cliff that are shooting at you because the person who betrayed you now takes truck and leaves, which, writing error, it's like, okay, couldn't one of the two characters shoot and then get in the truck and we can make it a cutscene and maybe turn around and shoot them or something like that? No, we had to stay in the hole, right, and do that. And what really annoyed me about this mission is I shot every visible enemy on that board and I was still getting shot at. And one guy had spawned into the rock wall. So I ended up popping him. And then took off. Now, a large part of the game's problems is when you're given a mission, there's really no parameters. It's either pass or fail. There's no guide arrows to really go. You just kind of have to use your best judgment on some of this stuff. And it's like you're using a drone to tail a car in the beginning of this game, right? And it's pretty cool. But if you get too close or too far, you fail. If you get in the middle, they tell you to get closer. Now, common logic would say if a bad guy's getting in a car and you're flying 200 feet above him in a drone, he's not going to see you. You should be able to get right on top of the hood of his car, theoretically, because he's not paying attention. But you insta-fail everything. That's what I'm saying. There's even a couple stealth sections that I understand why they put them in the game, but still, it's like it's a pain in the ass. I had to slink through a prison with robots watching me. And it seems fairly simple until their patterns change sporadically in the middle of the thing, and now you're caught and you got to redo it all again. Then I spawned into the ground after being killed, spawned in the middle of the ground, turned off my Xbox, turned the thing back on, and then there's the last segment of the game where the city you're in, Red Rock, is nothing. It looks nothing like the city you played, it's cool that the city changes, but you have to do so much crap running through robots that are shooting at you. It becomes ridiculous. And what's really the only one of the cool things of the game is after you get a little bit, they'll give you guns, but they don't even tell you you have them. You open your weapon wheel once, maybe you only have a revolver. Open it 15 minutes later, you got a revolver, shotgun, and whatever the hell else. They don't tell you. They don't tell you what's going on. In fact, it took me till after I beat the game to realize that my pre-order extras were not even, you couldn't even select them from the start of the game. You had to go into the extras, I believe, and go do that. But I've never had animation stop. I've never had that kind of issue. My issues were more like stop or spawn in the ground or kick out. And that brings me to one of my biggest complaints of the game. Having played the entire story, there are some really frustrating things, even on easy. On easy, there is a satellite minigame where you have to line up the satellite. And theoretically, all those minigames should have a switch where you could turn them off because they are annoying as hell, because when you're doing that, you're not realizing story-wise that people are trying to break into the door. I died 6 times trying to do that, trying to figure out what, and only when I realized that I'm standing in a computer in the game trying to line this satellite up, that robots are kicking down the door. That brings me to another glaring glitch. That there's no instructions for most of these missions. It just says, go to A to B, do this. They don't explain how. Give you a perfect example. Toward the end of the game, when you actually have to fend off a rocket attack when you're trying to launch this rocket into space, right? It's a big moment in the game, and it's graphically done well, but they want you to check the tire tracks. Now, normal person would, fly their drone down there, scan the tracks, and say, okay, good. No, they want you to hover, and it took me 10 times to figure that out. So again, no rhyme, no reason. The game actually ends, and it stops. Once you run through this robot-infested town, and you're sitting there blasting, right? Your character jumps into a portal to this dimension, but nothing's even explained to you. I mean, there's hints of it here and there, but they don't fully flesh out, explain it to you, and it's done in such a way where you don't even care about the end result. It just quits. And the other thing that really annoyed me is any GTA game, any Red Dead game, any open world game that I played, you can jack different cars, different vehicles. Red Dead, you can jack horses. You can't do this. The only thing you can jack other than your car in Mind's Eye is a military vehicle. I don't know if that's by design or what. And then they have the audacity to, after you finish the game, they have the audacity to put a free roam board in there. Which basically I played the free roam and all I did was shoot a couple civilians and didn't do much else. Apparently they want you to just go around and do whatever and there's no rhyme, no reason. And after beating the thing and seeing everything that it has to offer, it could have been done a lot better. It could have been polished a lot better. I think this is a game that would take another 2-3 years, maybe. I don't know. So now I read a couple of days ago that Mind's Eye is starting to lay people off. Now they had a 10-year plan for this game. They were going to support this thing for 10 years with user-generated creations where you can make your own video games now. Sounds like a great idea, but you know what? Most of us, Leslie Benzies, we actually pay you guys to make games for us. Because you guys are the experts. Now I understand that's a great idea. But what I don't understand is if you got a game that really shit the bed coming out of the gate, no one's going to want to do anything off of that game. And then to make matters worse, in the game you can go back to challenges, which I believe were optional, but they always made me do it. Where, you shoot a bunch of people or run through an alley without getting hit or some stupid thing. At the end of the day, Mind's Eye is not a great game. And I actually, like I said, I completed it. And when I completed it, I didn't feel anything. Like normally I beat a game and I'm like, yes. I beat that one. I was just like, it's over. So to be honest with you, I've been playing Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 on the PS5, and I'll tell you what, the first opening minutes of Spider-Man Miles Morales beats anything Mind's Eye threw at me in the 12 or 14 hours it took to beat the thing. And like I said, I don't give negative reviews all the time. I wanted to tell you guys, just stay away from that game. The hype on this thing is real. I didn't want to believe it, but then when I started playing this piece of garbage, and I'm not blaming Leslie Benzies. I think it was a culminated effort. I think marketing was off. I think it needed to cook. I think there was so many things missing, and it tried to top GTA and eventually just fell very, very, very short of those goals. And I'll probably never play the thing from front to back again unless there's a lot of improvements. And that's probably never going to happen considering now, like I said, they're laying people off. Build a Rocket Boy's probably not even going to, work on this game. And then they were actually talking about a sequel, Mind's Eye 2. And I was just like, after I beat the first one and realized that there was a lot of glaring issues and omissions and things that were restricted to players, I'm just like, you know what? Not going to happen. I was surprised that my man, the Rad Brad, tried it out. And I don't know how far he made it because after that I watched a little bit of it and I just kind of beat it and that was the end of that. And it's sad because that game had a lot of potential and I think it was just wasted by rushed development, poor hit detection, bad story choices, and just restraint, I think, is the lack of a better word. But yeah, stay away from that one. Play Spider-Man instead. You guys will be safer.